Hey there, fellow soil enthusiasts. If you've been following along with the Soil Sage Chronicles journey, you know I'm all about finding practical solutions that actually work in our gardens. Today, we're diving deep into a question that hits close to home for many of us. When the skies open up and refuse to stop, should you be reaching for more pots, or trusting your in-ground garden to weather the storm? I'll be honest with you. After years of watching gardeners scramble to move container plants under cover every time dark clouds roll in, I've become a passionate advocate for the power of in-ground gardening. While container gardening certainly has its place, there's something almost magical about how well-established in-ground gardens can handle whatever Mother Nature throws at them. Let's start with what I consider the game-changer root development. When your plants are growing directly in the ground, their roots aren't confined to the cramped quarters of even the largest container. Instead, they spread out naturally, creating an extensive network that serves as both anchor and drainage system. I remember visiting a friend's garden after a particularly brutal week of storms. Her container tomatoes were showing signs of stress, some with yellowing leaves from overwatering, others actually dying from root rot. But her in-ground tomatoes, they were thriving. The difference was striking, and it all came down to root freedom. In-ground roots can extend horizontally and vertically in ways that container roots simply cannot. This extensive root system doesn't just provide stability, it creates natural drainage channels throughout the soil. Think of it as your plants engineering their own water management system, something that's impossible to replicate in containers. Here's where in-ground gardening really shines. You're working with actual soil, not potting mix. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but my soil is clay, or my soil is too sandy. Here's the thing, even challenging soil types can be improved and managed more effectively than trying to create the perfect container environment. Clay soil, while often maligned, actually has incredible water-holding capacity. Yes, it can become waterlogged, but with proper amendments and drainage strategies, clay becomes a powerhouse for plant growth. I've seen gardens in heavy clay soil that, once properly managed, outperform container gardens year after year. Sandy soil presents different challenges, but, it offers natural drainage that containers just can't quite match. The key is really understanding your soil type and working with it, not against it. In-ground gardening gives you the opportunity to gradually improve your soil over time, creating a growing medium that's perfectly suited to your local conditions. Let's tackle the elephant in the room, drainage. Poor drainage is often cited as the main reason people avoid in-ground gardening in wet climates. But here's what I've learned from years of troubleshooting waterlogged gardens. Most drainage problems are completely solvable with the right approach. The secret lies in understanding how water moves through your landscape. Water always follows the path of least resistance, and you can use this to your advantage. Start by observing your garden during and after heavy rains. Where does water collect? Where does it flow? This observation period is, honestly, crucial for developing an effective drainage strategy. Creating raised beds within your in-ground garden is, honestly, one of the most effective techniques I've discovered. By mounding your planting areas just 6 to 12 inches above the surrounding grade, you're giving your plant's roots some real breathing room while still maintaining that crucial connection to the native soil below. This approach, combines the drainage benefits of elevation with the root freedom of in-ground planting. French drains are another powerful tool in the drainage arsenal. These underground channels filled with gravel, they create pathways for excess water to move away from your planting areas. I've installed simple French drains in numerous gardens, and let me tell you, the transformation is often dramatic. Plants that were previously struggling with wet feet suddenly take off and thrive. Compaction is the silent killer of in-ground gardens, especially in areas with heavy rainfall. When soil becomes compacted, it loses its ability to drain properly, creating the very conditions that lead to plant stress and root rot. But, honestly, compaction is entirely preventable with proper planning and maintenance. The first rule of compaction prevention is simple: never work in wet soil. I know it's tempting to get out there and garden after a rain, but walking on or tilling wet soil creates compaction that can take years to undo. Instead, wait until your soil reaches the proper moisture level, when you can squeeze a handful and it crumbles rather than forming a muddy ball. Permanent pathways are your best defense against compaction. By establishing clear routes through your garden, you eliminate the need to walk on planted areas. I prefer pathways made from permeable materials like gravel or stepping stones, which allow water to infiltrate while providing stable footing. Adding organic matter regularly is perhaps the most important long-term strategy for preventing compaction. Compost, aged manure, and other organic amendments improve soil structure, creating spaces for air and water movement. I make it a point to add a layer of compost to my beds at least twice a year, and the difference in soil quality is honestly just remarkable. Let me share some examples of successful in-ground gardens that have really mastered the art of rain management. One of my favorites is a market garden in the Pacific Northwest, and that's an area, that's known for its challenging wet seasons. The gardeners there use a combination of raised beds, cover crops, and strategic drainage ditches to manage water flow. Their secret weapon? Well, they plant cover crops like crimson clover and winter rye in their pathways and unused areas. These crops help break up compaction with their roots while absorbing excess moisture. When spring arrives, they simply mow the cover crops and use them as mulch. It's a perfect example of working with nature rather than against it. Another inspiring example is a permaculture garden in a flood-prone area. The gardeners created a series of swales and berms that direct water flow while creating microclimates for different plants. During heavy rains, the swales capture and slowly release water, preventing flooding while recharging the groundwater. The berms provide well-drained areas for plants that prefer drier conditions. This is where in-ground gardening truly outshines container growing, the ability to build soil health over time. Every year, your in-ground garden becomes more resilient, more productive, and better able to handle weather extremes. Container gardens, on the other hand, require constant inputs of fresh potting mix and amendments. I've watched gardens transform over the years as gardeners consistently add organic matter, plant diverse species, and work with natural soil biology. What starts as challenging soil often becomes incredibly productive growing medium within just a few seasons. This improvement compounds over time, creating gardens that become more resilient with each passing year. The soil biology in established in-ground gardens is particularly impressive. Beneficial fungi, bacteria, and other microorganisms create networks that help plants access nutrients and water more efficiently. These biological partnerships simply can't develop in the confined space of containers. So, if you're convinced that in-ground gardening is the way to go, here's how to make the transition successfully. Start small, just choose one area of your garden and focus on getting it right before you think about expanding. This approach, honestly, lets you learn your soil's behavior patterns without overwhelming yourself. It's really important to invest time in soil testing and observation before you start planting. Understanding your soil's pH drainage characteristics and nutrient levels will, guide your improvement efforts. I always recommend a full growing season of soil building before attempting intensive planting. Consider your plant selection carefully. Choose varieties that are well suited to your climate and soil conditions. Native plants and locally adapted varieties will always perform better than plants that are fighting against their environment. The choice between pots and in-ground planting doesn't have to be all or nothing, but understanding the unique advantages of in-ground gardening will help you create a more resilient, productive garden. The deep root systems, natural drainage, and soil building potential of in-ground gardens make them incredibly well suited to handle whatever weather comes your way. Remember, successful in-ground gardening in wet climates isn't about fighting against the rain, it's about working with natural water cycles to create a thriving ecosystem. With proper drainage strategies, soil management, and plant selection, your in-ground garden can become a model of resilience and productivity. Ready to dive deeper into soil building strategies and drainage solutions? Don't forget to subscribe to Soil Sage Chronicles for more practical gardening wisdom, and share this article with fellow gardeners who might be struggling with rain-resistant growing. Together, we can build healthier, more resilient gardens that thrive in any weather.